Gilbert West, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I wrote this in a bar, not just like a Starbucks, where people are sitting with their MacBook Airs writing their next big project in San Francisco. Not a fancy bar where you'd actually go for a first date. I wrote it in Le Roi Albert. Okay, so this is what I call a brown pub. The seats are brown, tables are brown, everything's brown, even the beer is brown. Over on my left, there's an old guy sitting, he's got a cap on, he's got a dog on his lap, and he's sitting on an old clamshell phone. But dead ahead of me, there are two other old guys, about in their 70s, maybe their 80s. They're sitting by the door. And everyone that comes in, they turn and look at this guy, and they start to have a conversation with him. And I noticed that he has an iPad. Now, I'm sitting with paper and pencil making notes, but this old guy has an iPad. And he's explaining what Wi-Fi is to people. And they're nodding, they're saying, oh, yeah. I know Wi-Fi, yeah, my daughter's got that at home, yeah. And basically, I'm quite surprised. I'm sitting watching this. I'm watching this conversation going on. And the word Wi-Fi is kind of like pinging around, going from wall to wall, boom, 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 like in a game of Pong. I'm thinking, something's really, really changed here. This word Wi-Fi, it's kind of come here, and it's going to die here. It's not actually going to go anywhere else. No one is going to tell the story of Wi-Fi, in Belgium anyway. It's the last time that it's going to be explained. Because if this old guy now has an iPad, and the people that traditionally went to the pub, who went there for company, went there for warmth, they're now going there for the free Wi-Fi. This is a game changer. So he's not going to go to the shop. He's not going to buy the regular newspaper. He's consuming the news through his iPad. So you, as media and journalism students, you're probably, for the majority of the time, not going to be writing for print anymore. The majority of your words will be published on the web. And that's a really great situation to be in, because everything you do on the web is measurable. Everything can be changed later on. You can react. It's a much better medium to write for. But it is a different medium. And at the moment, it kind of sucks. So here's why it sucks. Basically, what we do is we teach people literature. When we're at school, you're taught literature. You're not taught about writing, okay? So on the whole, people grow up thinking that they're not going to be great writers. They think of it as a high art. Yet we're in this sort of strange schizophrenic situation where, well, non-writers go and write all the copy for the sites anyway, yeah? We basically leave it to the people that make the websites, the engineers, and that's not a great idea. Design on the web now is really great. We're really starting to get there. Usability, we're really starting to get there. The writing, the copy, I'm not talking about the feature articles, but the actual words that guide us through the site and so on, that still kind of sucks. So, Charvan, you're a website owner, aren't you? Yeah. And it's important to your business for you to have your website, yeah? And who wrote the copy for your website? Okay. And are you a professional writer? Okay. So I'm sure it's great, but I'm sure also with the input of writers and professional writers, copywriters, then it could be improved. So some of you will be journalists. Some of you will be writing the great big chunky content, the feature articles in the middle. But now that we've fixed design, we fixed the engineering, hosting used to be crappy, we just used to be happy if the website was up. The engineers used to do the design, now we've got much better at design, professional designers are doing it, we're looking at usability. So there's also a whole lot of scope for writers, copywriters, to come onto the web as well. So got some guidelines for you. Basically, make other people feel smart. Lose your ego when you're writing on the web. Think about your audience. Try and make things as simple as possible. Always reread stuff and think about the context that it's being presented in. And, as I say, really sort of take pride in simplicity. It sounds kind of zen. So. Now, it's kind of negative so far, saying that writing on the web's not so great, but don't worry, we can fix it. So, how do we go about that? There's 3 quick things that you can do, in my opinion. So, as I say, I'm not talking about the actual feature content. I'm going to take a quick look at headlines. Jordan's actually kind of covered that about the blanks in headlines, so I won't go into that too much. I've got some examples of microcopy, which is everything from the text on an individual button to small clauses and phrases that are calls to action, that kind of thing. And then, as Sarah said, I'll talk a little bit about site search analytics and what you can do with that. So, headlines. This is a wonderful paper from my native country, good old British tabloids. So, this is the world that the old guy was in before. Okay, so the traditional paper. Tabloid papers, it's a situation where you make a choice. Okay, you either go tabloid or you go broadsheet. Most people choose the same paper each time, but there is an element of choice, and that can be determined by the headline. So 3, 4, 5 tabloids stacked up in a shop. The headline is going to grab your attention. So this is an example of what's called the Wacko Jacko question in search engine optimization. So, you see this and you think, oh, I have to buy this paper. I need to know what's going on. Plus, they've done a great job of you'll save money, you'll read about sex, and you'll win 500 bikinis. So, why wouldn't you buy this? But if you're going to deal with this on the web, then the majority of people that are interested in the story about Michael Jackson, they're not going to call him Wacko Jacko. So that's not what they'll search for, okay? So you're going to have to start writing headlines differently on the web. This one, now this is a slightly different situation. This would work on the web and on print as well. Ike Turner was known for not exactly being the best husband. And the headline writer here has done a great job, whereas basically he's done his job. He's been told to write the obituary, but he's also said, yeah, and Ike, up yours. So. It has, the headlines have an impact on what you read. So traditionally, we were choosing the newspapers that we wanted to go to, but now we're choosing the individual pieces of content. We're going out, we're searching for information. We're going out and we're finding links and things like Twitter. We're clicking on the links, and we're ending up at a publication. So more and more, I find myself reading content on newspapers, online newspapers that I would never pick up in the shop. Okay, newspapers that I'm not politically aligned with, newspapers that I wouldn't sit on and read on the train because I wouldn't want to be associated with that. But those newspapers at the moment are also very good at SEO. So, somebody puts a link out on Twitter, you just see the short URL, I click on it, suddenly I'm on a newspaper that I don't really like, but the story's there. So you have to be... the allegiances are changing. And at the moment, the kind of newspapers I don't like are very good at SEO. So, microcopy. Microcopy, as I say, can be one word on a button. It can be lots of words on a button. It can be little clauses. It can be the kind of alerts that you get, when you delete something, when you register on a form, you get a flash message that comes up. So it's the things that guide you through a website. And if it's done well, it should basically reassure you, let you know that you get in there and actually guide you to the task, so that on something like a shopping basket, you get much higher conversions. So it can also help you reinforce your brand. So let's look at some examples. Now, the content that I'm interested in there is this phrase. This is from Posterous, which is a blogging system. This phrase here, "Hello there, don't believe we've met before." Now, this is starting a conversation, and it actually humanizes the website, and you start to feel this kind of heartbeat. There's a whole load of things that are wrong, like, for example, this what looks to me like a no-entry site here. It makes you think, oh, there's something wrong. I shouldn't do this. They've used about 50 different fonts, but the phrase is really good, and it's like, oh, no, you're right. So you start to have a conversation with the site. It's a tiny thing, but these little things really work. Now, this guy, he's a blogger. He's a programmer, but he writes about what he programs, and he really gives his sites a human face. If you refresh the page, every different page you go to, there's a picture of him with someone that he's met. He goes to events like this. He takes photos, and then he puts them on his website, kind of wraps up what is essentially very technical, very dry, and boring content. But he gives it literally a human face. And he says, okay, that's me, and he's done it in a handwritten font, so it's nice and friendly. Here's another one. But he takes it further. I mean, he goes all the way through the site. What he wants to do is he learns new stuff, he writes about it, he wants to convey that to you. And then he wants you to join in the conversation and actually start commenting. So no one's left a comment and a shrug. That in itself might be enough to get you to comment. But he's then saying, okay, look, we're having a conversation. And then this line here, totally make my day, he's actually giving you a reason to do it. And if that's not enough, he then says, it's here, leave a comment. So he actually guides you through the whole process. And he gets more comments because of that. He then goes on, okay, standard stuff about being polite. But he could have just used the regular text that comes with the blog system, but he's changed it. Please be nice to each other. So he's humanizing it again. This is an example of a button. I don't recommend that you make all of your buttons like this. But you see this more and more on unsubscribe pages. Because you get an email and you think, oh, I don't want this email. You click unsubscribe, and essentially you're breaking a relationship with the company there. Okay? So there's a company called AppSumo, and if you try and unsubscribe there's a whole series of jokes and so on. So they try and diffuse this with humor. And they've kind of done it there as well. So this is a ebook publishing website. And they're saying, look, don't do it. It'll be such a loss to humanity. This works in one-time situations. Yeah, if you were using this kind of humor in logons, that kind of thing, doesn't work. But for one-time situations like unsubscribe, or when people actually subscribe, it's okay. This is from an application called Buffer App. It's a very simple app. Doesn't really do that much. You go in, you put your tweets in, and it just lines them up, and it schedules them, and it sends them out, aggregated over a period of time. But they've introduced, a human aspect here. Now, to say it's a fun app to use is like going a bit far, but it's not so dry. So poor thing, you've deleted the tweet. Here they do it again. Because I'm a cheapskate, I don't use the pay plan. I use the free plan. So when you add too many, it says, okay, the buffer is full. Now, if they hadn't said nice work, so you completely filled the buffer for your current plan, if they just left it at that, it feels like, you've done something wrong. But because they say nice work, it's like, good job, come back, keep on adding more. Oh, and by the way, you can pay us to add more. This is a great example of someone actually thinking about the audience and the context that they might be in. So video is a great way to showcase your product and get really good conversions. But look, no headphones handy. read the text version. So they're recognizing that you might be sitting in an office, you might be sitting in a cafe, you don't actually know what is going to be said on the video. So they're saying, look, if it's inconvenient, don't go away, just read the text version. And of course, and then there's SEO benefits to that, of course, because the text is there as well as the video. So when you put it all together in a package, this is the kind of thing that happens. Now, this is a landing page. The line at the top is the unique value proposition. So it's never been easy. Great, that's good, because I want to do some usability testing. It's cheap, so I'm going to have to pay. But you're going to find out why people leave your site. Well, great, because that's exactly what I want to know. Okay, so I got to pay, but this is what I get, and that's fine. Then we've got a thing called social proof here. So the guy that created Twitter is saying, if you use it, it'll get better. So now I'm kind of like, oh, I want my site to be better, so I have to use it. And the guy from Twitter, he knows a thing or two about the web, so it must be true. So again, more social proof. Now you come to the blocker. So this is where the sales happen. And it's going to ask me for my money. And this is the really difficult thing to do. Okay, so you've got to part with your money to actually pay for the product. The mouse is hovering over the button. But look, they've inserted a nice little line underneath the button. Watch visitors use your website. And you think, whoa, I can do that, and I can do it now. They were actually doing some A/B testing. So the first time I saw this website, it actually said, see visitors use your website now. So it was a much more immediate call to action. So they kind of soften the sign up just with that little phrase. And then right at the end they say, don't worry, it's not real money. You know, if you pay and you don't like it, you can still get the money back. Now the reason there's this big red line here is because when you go to the site, this is where your eye lands. Your eye immediately goes up to the top, which is why you always see the search box in the top right-hand corner. Then we come around and we start reading. So that's kind of the flow, you know, in a microsecond of how you get to the site. And it takes you over the faces, which again is more social proof. It's not just the web. It's not just talking to humans. So here's an offline example where, a lot of vets do this. It's not just this actual vet. So they've written to the cat itself, Dear Elliot, you know, make sure your owner calls us for an appointment. So obviously the cat's not going to read it, but you know, it's humorous, it catches the attention, because everything else is crowded. So it stands out. So, now, this is how not to do it. The only thing that they got right here was the orange is the same color as the line. But everything else on this page just says, you've done it wrong, you've done it wrong, you've done it wrong, bad customer, bad customer, bad customer. Whereas actually it's, you know, it's wrong. And this was probably written by engineers. Now, Sarah mentioned about measurability, and actually listening to what customers are looking for and how you can use that. So I had to transfer some money to the States. So I went to the ING site because it was a Sunday, so I can't phone them. No one's there. I type in wire transfer. And I said, did you mean no? Okay. I try again. I think so. Okay, go broad. Transfer USA. No, sorry, we know nothing. Now, what ING should be doing is if I leave this presentation and I go and I do the search now, I would hope that I would find a page saying, okay, yeah, it's not an IBAN process, you need to do this, and you know, it'll cost this much, blah, 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 blah. But I have a feeling that if I do that, that page won't be there. But ING and, well, anyone should be analyzing things like their log files, their analytics, and seeing what people are actually searching for, and looking at the terms that they actually use. Because then you can actually do start writing what's called demand-led content. You're actually addressing people's needs rather than just you know, taking your brochures and putting them online. And it has a benefit that if you start to write in the kind of terms that people use, then those are also the terms that they search for, and it means that your products are more likely to be found. So, as I say, again, you know, you're in this kind of situation where all of this can be done. Your writers, you're going to be thinking up ideas, but don't forget, push for when you get a job in a newspaper, when you get a job in any company, push and try and find out what the customers actually want, what they're searching for. At the Open University, which is it's a correspondence course, it's one of the most respected correspondence courses in the world. They started to analyze their log files, and they found out that the second most searched thing on their website was photography courses. And they don't teach photography courses. So they're then in this situation where they have to have the meeting and say, okay, do we start to run a photography course or not? Now, that might not fit in with their remit, but if they're a commercial organization, then, there's demand. So fill the demand, you'll make more money. In the Guardian paper in the UK, they actually do this. They analyze all of the log files every week, and they bring that into the editorial meetings. And there might not always be something to write about, but it informs trends. Sometimes your readers are actually ahead of you. You're missing out particular articles. So use what people are searching for as an indicator of demand. So, find is going to win over choose. Yeah, the paradigm where we go in and we pick up a newspaper is gone. This old guy in my pub has proved it. He's going to be searching for stuff. It's not that he's going to be reading less. It's not that he's going to be consuming less. He'll probably consume more because he can do it whenever he wants. And the pub next door to this pub now has free Wi-Fi as well. So the free Wi-Fi is spreading around all of these brown pubs. So when you do get your job in journalism or media, follow these rules. Listen to your readers. They'll help you figure out what you should write. Make sure that you're publishing somewhere that has good usability, if you can, because the readers will come back, the readers will be loyal to that. And tweak your headlines. So I'll leave you with a couple of nice adages from writers, because at the end of the day, the big chunky bit that you write in the middle that's surrounded by all the buttons, all the headlines, that doesn't change. So rewrite, rewrite, rewrite. Thank you all.